Welcome everyone, Christine here with a discussion about some of the best campaigns from my perspective in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, starting with Grimgor, who I'm sure some people will believe that he should be at the top of the list, but not quite. I do think he is the best greenskin Legendary Lord campaign in the game, by far, because it's such a very thematic campaign for the greenskins, for Grimgor, for the Black Orcs, with starting right next to Zarnagrund, being incentivized by every measure in the game to take Zarnagrund, being able to take it legitimately, not cheese it with in a siege, but actually fighting those armies over there near Zarnagrund and just taking it. It is a great campaign in so many ways. And it's very thematic to Grimgor because in the end times, this is what Grimgor did. He conquered the ogres, he went all the way to Cathay, then he conquered the cast dwarves. You may not go all the way to Cathay, though you certainly can if you so decide. But all the same, Grimgor's campaign is just very thematic. For the Black Orc Rebellion, we're going to get vengeance on the cast dwarves in this campaign. And there's a couple of things that CA has done with the Greenskin rework that actually make Grimgor's campaign better. For starters, being able to get big guns at tier 2 means you no longer have to play in the exact same way as you did before. Because before the Greenskin rework, one of the best things you could do was spam Goblin Archers and spam Nasty Skulkers, because they were really effective unit, cost-effective units and easily accessible. See, this is the thing. The best units in a campaign aren't the units that are the most powerful. It's the units you can actually recruit at a point in a campaign when it matters, which is like up to turn 30. Whether or not there should be a better endgame situation, that's a discussion. Maybe something for another time, for another video on that particular subject. But I do greatly appreciate that. Between the Spear Boys, the Big Guns, etc., you now have a far better amount of variety in a Greenskin campaign. And with the Ogre Mercenary rework, you can even get Ogre Mercenary. So the Beastois emerges over here in this campaign. I actually recruited those Ogre Bulls with dual weapons from that particular camp that's going to be wiped out by Colic. Oh well, rip on that particular subject, but hey, we get Ogre Bulls. Pity that they lost their wall breaker capability, because that would have been freaking awesome, but preserve an Ogre camp, one minor Ogre faction, ally it, and start getting Man-Eaters and Man-Eaters with Ogre Pistol. Those are your big hitters. Don't bother with Trolls, just get Man-Eaters. Great units, really great units. And especially now that with 6.01, Creative Assembly has fixed the splash damage with respect to that. Another thing I really like about Grimgor and the changes in his campaign, you can now get free Black Orc Big Bosses from turn 1. You get 1 by default, because you can recruit them in all provinces, and you get 2 more because of the faction effect you have here. But then you have the Lord effect that gives you 2 more. I've made this comparison in another video, but it feels like Grimgor, with respect to Black Orcs, he's kind of become the Alariel of the Greenskins. Because you see, Alariel's real campaign power is the fact she can get more handmaidens than everyone else. Now, Black Orcs are not handmaidens from a campaign power perspective, but just being able to run around with a Doom stack fairly quickly of Black Orc big bosses is great. And on top of that, speaking about Black Orcs, you can now buff them far more than you did before, because you can now get all of these wrap upgrades at the same time. So you start with some things unlocked, including things like padded shields. That's great. Missile block chance, armor. That is fantastic. The boys. One of the problems of Greenskins is how Orcs were actually, for the most part, inferior to recruiting Goblins. Partly because of research tree incentives, partly because of lack of skill lines, the existence of the Goblin Tide, which really helped the survival of Goblins. All of those things are still there, but Orcs are now far more viable. And I think this fits Grimgor very well in his campaign. So you have a very thematic campaign for a Black Orc, for a Greenskin, for Grimgor in Warhammer 3. It's a campaign that works. It's not the most challenging campaign, to be sure, but it is a really fun campaign, and it's pretty well designed for what it is. And you can really see that Creative Assembly does greatly care about Grimgor as a character and making his campaign work very, very well, because it simply does in quite a few ways. So I do greatly appreciate this one. It's a lot of fun. You can't go wrong. Whether or not you have DLC or not for Greenskins, you can't go wrong playing this particular campaign in Warhammer 3. Though I would certainly recommend having the DLC, all the Greenskin DLCs in this campaign. Actually, with the changes to Greenskins, funnily enough, you no longer need King and the Warlord, because King and the Warlord doesn't really add great things. Like, it added Nasty Skulkers, but you no longer need Nasty Skulkers with Big Guns being a tier 2 unit. So finally we've gotten to the point where we can just take a crap DLC, because it is a pretty bad DLC overall, but one that had very important things. We can take that and throw it in the garbage bin and play orcs the way that orcs were meant to be played, as opposed to Greenskins being all about really pushing the goblins to the limit. I mean, there's some nerfs to be sure, but that's not going to stop Grimgor. So really well-designed campaign over here. Has been since Immortal Empires came out and has only gotten better. Some nerfs, sure, you can consider this campaign nerfed with 6.0, but I do think it has added more variety for it in terms of unit recruitment, in terms of possibilities that you have as opposed to what existed before. At number 4, we have Golgfag Maneater from Omens of Destruction. The only Omens of Destruction campaign that's actually worth purchasing. Skulltaker is just broken and not in a good way as a campaign. Gorbad is not as interesting. I mean, it's an interesting starting position for Gorbad, but as a legendary lord, let's just say he leaves a lot to be desired. So you're left with Golgfag as a campaign. Mind you, there's units and things that are worth it in DLCs, but as a campaign, this is the only one I'd recommend out of the DLCs. And what I really like about this specific campaign is, one, it's very thematic for the ogres who in general wander the world, beat people up. And that's one of the things you're going to be doing here as Golgfag. But on top of that, in this campaign, between the mercenary contracts, the teleportation that you do have available, the focus on camps, and all the benefits of camps, you are going to have a greater variety of units available to you naturally than in many other campaigns, not necessarily more so than in other ogre campaigns, so you will certainly have a lot more meat available in this campaign than you would in others, which means, yeah, we can get camps to a higher level faster in this campaign. Ignore that my tutorials reset, unfortunately. So you can get access to quite a bit more stuff over here that you wouldn't necessarily in other campaigns. All ogres do start with the camp. Just like Greases, you might have to cheese it a bit to get access to that initial camp, but all ogres start with the camp. But not all ogres have the ability to traverse the world in the exact same way as Golgfag. And I feel that with Golgfag, CA has done something that they have struggled with for a very, very long time in so many campaigns, and so many campaign attempts. They've managed to finally achieve it here. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the idea of being able to make a nomadic campaign actually work. Think of this. Ever since Total War Attila, CA has been trying various mechanics, horde armies, the Changeling campaign, other things to try and make a campaign work that's not bound to a particular piece of territory. Well, I would say that it never really worked out the way they wanted it to work out, but now it does work with Golgfag. So maybe this campaign is setting a standard for what a campaign could be going forward from Creative Assembly in terms of having that kind of flexibility around the campaign map, having the traversal capability, having systems in a campaign that do work over there. I do, like, if there's things that I do dislike about it, I do feel like the contract system could have been more in-depth. There do seem to be certain bugs with regards to it, but as it stands though, regardless of that, as it currently stands as a campaign mechanic, it does allow you a lot of flexibility while also having some degree of challenge. Some degree, I emphasize, because, yeah, your ogres, you're really powerful, you're very strong, so you'll be able to demolish a lot of opponents, but you can always seek out really powerful opponents if you want to test your mettle. As opposed to Changeling, who just has a pathetically easy campaign that he flat out cannot lose, which, yes, that is a freaking big problem in that specific campaign, because it does diminish that campaign potential. So that's what I like about Golgfag. Wish the contract system was better, more in depth, all that, but yeah, what is here is good. Could have been better. I wish it had been better, and I can see how it could have been better, and that is a shame. But yeah, certainly a very good step in the right direction. I do think that they need to continue evolving it, but it's clearly something CA has been trying to figure out for a while now, and this is the closest that they've done in a campaign in Total War in general towards making a nomadic playstyle work well. And number 3, we have Emperor Karl Franz, and oh my, has this campaign come a very, very long ways from the days where it was genuinely one of the worst campaigns in the game. Not just the worst Empire campaign, but one of the worst in the entire game as a whole, and that is not a small thing to be said considering the large number of legendary lords in the game. But between the Empire rework and Karl Franz's rework in Thrones Decay, it has ended up being not just a thematic campaign for Karl Franz, but also a really good campaign in general. For a couple of reasons. You do have power, a good amount of power, because you have Jan Bo's mechanic over here through electoral machinations. But here's the thing, you're surrounded on all sides. You've got Grom, you've got Kemmler, you've got Vlad, you've got Festus, you've got Kazdrak. You have a whole host of challenges to be dealing with in this campaign in terms of just legendary lords alone, let alone all the minor factions. But you're not just interested in Reikland. That was never the problem in Karl Franz's campaign. It was always a question about how do you hold the Mammoth Empire against all the huge number of threats assailing it. Well, between the tools that you have been given, including Guaranteed Confederations with Elector counts, which can then be upgraded to Guaranteed Confederations with all Empire campaigns, including people like Volkmar or Gelt or Marcus Wolfhard, though why exactly you'd want to confederate Marcus Wolfhard is beyond me. I understand Volkmar, believe me. Like, Volkmar is more sensible because at least he has a good skill at Iron. Marcus Wolfhard, yeah, if you want to go to Lustria, I suppose. So, but either way, you do have a great deal of variety over here of choices you can make. Like, do you go in Bretonia? Do you try and save Midland? Do you try and take Marienburg? Do you try and rush Vlad? You do have all these choices available in this campaign that are all very workable, and all of them present their own unique challenges, including the fact that you're going to leave certain sectors of your front undefended compared to others. So you do have a much better situation than what you did before Thrones of Decay came out. And that does make for a much better campaign dynamic overall. And there's more to be said about this campaign, I would also argue. See, one of the things I also like about this campaign, and one of the things people shouldn't ignore either, is with regards to modding. Now, I generally don't rate mods with regards to a lot of things, but the Empire is one of the most modded races in the game. It has some of the best quality mods available, like Sigmar's Heir does make the campaign quite a bit more interesting and makes the Empire far more interesting. And there's plenty of other mods, and even mods that overhaul the entire game. There does seem to be a bigger focus on making the Empire work far better than it is with certain other races. So that is a benefit you're getting when playing in an Empire campaign. I do think Karl Franz, yes, he doesn't have the army of Elspeth, he doesn't have the magical capability of Gelt, but he does have the campaign potential that far eclipses the other two. And if you play an Elspeth campaign or a Gelt campaign, it can feel one-dimensional. Like, regardless of what you ultimately end up doing with Gelt, the first few turns are just going to be the exact same every single time without really any kind of challenge to it, because like burning nomads are not going to stop. Even if you rush Gorst, before you deal with the nomads. Again, not necessarily a great level of challenge available over there. Whereas Elspeth, she hard counters Vlad, so you just conquer this territory, then rush Vlad, and that's kind of it. Whereas with Karl Franz, there's a lot more to this campaign in both the short term and the long term. Great skill line, great lord effects, great faction effects, and great faction mechanics. If there's any complaint I would have with regards to Empire, I do think the research tree could be updated. Some things just take too long, some things just feel pointless to bother with. So I feel like the research tree of the Empire could have been updated. If there was anything that they should have updated that they didn't. But overall, just a really great job over here that Creative Assembly has done in updating this specific campaign. And number 2, and this could be a very strong contender for the number 1 spot, is Arbaal the Undefeated. The free campaign that came with Omens of Destruction that is much better than all the other campaigns in Omens of Destruction. Like, Skulltaker's campaign is broken. Gorbad, not necessarily that interesting. I think the creator of SFO probably put it best. It feels like a modded campaign as opposed to an actual paid DLC campaign. This feels like a proper, solid campaign that the CA actually put some thought, effort, and clear understanding of how people actually play the game and what they want. See, when we're playing a campaign, if you're a veteran player and you're playing a lot of Warhammer Free, what do you want? What do you really want? Well, you want to have a variety of units, because it gets boring, like recruiting just tier 1 units, tier 2, going through that progression. That's boring as dirt. I mean, like people would say, oh, you just want power. No, I don't care about power. I want variety. Because we are all, and keep in mind about power, yeah, you might get the army powerful, but in reality, you're paying an extra cost for those units. So your income, like, you can recruit tier 5 units pretty quickly if you're playing Grimgor, for instance. Can you afford tier 5 units? Yeah, that's a bad idea. Like, that's a bad idea. Or playing Gorbad, yeah, you can recruit tier 3 units pretty quickly in that campaign. You'll also run out of money. But it's a question of the variety of units you can recruit. So so his unique mechanic gives him all these kind of challenges around the world. And one of the challenges that you're almost always going to get, I certainly have gotten it in every campaign I've tried as Arbaal, at least one of the challenges, one of the extreme, the ultimate bloodbath challenges, is to defeat one of the armies of Zarngrund, which you can teleport to, take Zarngrund, make it your capital. In this case, the Falls of Doom became my capital. But regardless of that situation, I literally abandoned my initial province and vassalized Astrogoth and Grimgor in this campaign, just for the fun factor. Like, it's like, I don't need them as vassals in any way, shape, or form. I'm just doing it for the lulz, really. And that is great. That's fun. Like, it's so great to just, like, screw around the world. This is a better troll campaign than the Changeling in 100 different ways. Like, if you want to just troll around the world, this is a much better campaign. Golgfag is a much better campaign because there are actual stakes in this campaign. Which is, by the way, why it's better than Golgfag. Because Golgfag, yeah, it's a good campaign, lots of variety, all that, but you're not really going to risk all that much in that campaign. Whereas with Arbaal, if you get defeated, as unlikely as it is to be defeated with your legendary lord, but if you screw around too much and you make stupid risk, you will pay a heavy price. You may not lose the campaign, but you're certainly going to pay a very heavy price. So that's great, but there's other things as well beyond these challenges, beyond the teleportation, beyond the fact that the game is literally spawning high-end rogue armies from the very beginning. I actually kind of like him more in the Old World mod, where it's picking legendary lords, than this. I kind of wish, like, it would just pick some legendary lord and just replace some of the units in their army. Like, oh, I would like to fight Grimgor, for instance, or Scarbrand or Skulltaker, but just replace the units with endgame units. That way you have that thematic aspect of fighting an endgame army, or endgame heroes. That I think would be great, a better system of a campaign than what we got. I do consider it an Oxyotl type campaign, but I consider it much better than Oxyotl, because Oxyotl is just a troll, right? Like, he just goes around, teleports, beats the crap out of everyone, but you're not really risking anything in this campaign. Here, you're risking getting defeated, and if you get defeated, you get screwed in a very substantial way. But here's one of the things that also elevates this campaign against so many other campaigns. Whoever made this campaign knew exactly how people would want to play Khorne, what they're going to look into a Khorne playstyle. So the fact that you have a construction time benefit for mortal units means you can start getting those better mortal units quicker. You can get Chaos Knights, you can get those units, just the recruitment availability of them. The fact that you start on a mortal settlement as opposed to demonic settlement, that demonic settlement stuff is not great because if you're playing a Skulltaker or Scarbrand campaign, you're just wasting several turns just converting your settlement to be able to recruit mortal heroes and units. I mean, you would do it anyway for the mortal heroes. Because, yeah, getting replenishment is a pretty damn big deal. So that's great. So whoever designed this really understood what we want. We want variety of units. We want to go around the campaign map. We want to have some action. We want to have that world tour, but we also want to have a stake when we're doing it. But there's more. See, this is the one aspect that I think sets this campaign apart. See, one of the problems when you have this kind of world tour is you may want to go back home to recruit higher end units, because higher end units, you know, add variety. But the problem is, with global recruitment, is that things like many units may take like 4 turns. You'd never want to stop for 2 turns just to replace some units in your army, because why would you need to? Like, Arbaal would be extremely powerful with an entire army of cast warriors, just the default ones that you can recruit from turn 1. So why would you stop, right? And at most, you would get units that you can recruit in 1 turn. Now, by default, Bloodletting gives you a global recruitment duration minus 2 turns. But there's units that take 4 turns. Cast Knights or Lances, you know, the more fun, interesting stuff like Minotaurs or Khorne. But this is where you can really feel like whoever designed this clearly understood, unlike the people who designed Gorbat. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. I don't think the people who designed Gorbat or Skulltaker really understood very well how we actually play the game. Whoever did this did understand that. And it's just one small thing, but it makes such a phenomenal change in terms of unit variety and incentivizing you as a player to just, okay, I'm going to get rid of these units, I'm going to replace them with more fun units, I'm going to get Cast Knights, I'm going to get Minotaurs, I'm going to get X, Y, and Z. Hell, even Exalted Bloodletters, like I'm serious, even getting Exalted Bloodletters, recruiting those, is you can do this better in this campaign than in any other campaign of Khorne. Because you get that minus global 1 recruitment duration for all units, not just mortal units, all units. So that means that you get not a minus 2 global recruitment duration benefit, but a minus 3 global recruitment duration benefit, which means you don't have to always, at any point in this campaign, do you have to go back to your campaign, do you have to go to your capital, except for heroes maybe. Like, yeah, I could use a Blood Reaper here. In this army, maybe. Do I need a Blood Reaper when I'm constantly teleporting? Maybe not. But the only reason you might go back is like just get a hero or something like that. But you never need to go back to just switch your army up. You can do so. But the fact that you're able to recruit units so quickly through global recruitment means you are constantly on the move, constantly doing stuff, and you never have to stop. And that is fucking amazing. Like, just flat amazing. The sheer possibilities of what you can do in this campaign. Like, I'm serious. I do really like this campaign. I think it's by far and away the best campaign of Omens of Destruction. I think it's one of the best campaigns CA has ever done. I think in terms of a nomadic playstyle and World Wanderer, it is the best campaign that they've ever done. But it's not necessarily the #1 campaign. It is a very strong contender, but not necessarily quite there in some ways. And finally, at #1 is Malakai Makason. Between his starting position, where you have Trog, Frot, Archeon, and Arbaal as neighbors, as well as Astrogoth, Azazel, even more than that, because as you expand more, you'll encounter Wulfric, Epidemius, Malice Darkblade, even Daniel, if you will. This campaign does have a fairly powerful legendary lore to be certain about it, but it is also the kind of campaign where there are a lot of things at stake with regards to it. And then you have these wonderful adventures that give you that extra unit variety as well, because when you start one of these adventures, you will get some of these units for for free. So that is actual unit variety. I'm just gonna take one cannon over here and just keep recruiting unit slayers with Malakai. Well, just to unlock the special hero with regards to that. So that is a great deal of variety that you do have to begin with in this campaign in particular. And yeah, save Kislev, fight alongside Kislev, do these various objectives, deal with all these legendary lords. That is really a good system for a campaign that other campaigns do lack. That's great. But there's more to it than just that. There's also the situation with the dwarven racial mechanics between the grudges, which incentivize you to go out there and risk your neck around the world doing various things, and also the legendary grudges, which give you long-term objectives to aim for in a campaign. You also have the fact that you can guarantee confederation with other legendary lords of the dwarves, which in itself is also a freaking great thing to have in a campaign, because it means that you do end up having quite a bit of campaign variety available to you that you otherwise wouldn't necessarily have. Also, gyrocopter doom stacks are pretty freaking awesome. Gyrocopters and cannons, that is pretty juicy, not gonna lie to you. Not gonna lie at all on that subject. So great variety, great capabilities in this campaign, great possibilities for you to work with that you wouldn't have otherwise. So that is all very, very good, what CA has done with regards to this specific campaign. Just the starting position does so much, the racial mechanics do so much. You do have, and you have all these wonderful upgrades for all these kind of units, with objectives, even rogue armies being spawned if you're missing a particular race, with, yeah, just a lot of things that I do absolutely adore about this campaign. And with the addition of Arbaal as a neighbor who's almost certainly going to declare war on you because chaos hates dwarves, dwarves hate chaos, it gets even better. So those are the kind of things to like about Malakai, the sheer variety on display over here. Like, oh, let's confederate Grombrindle and then fight an entire war over there if he still has any territory. Fight an entire war over there with, let's say, Malekith or Katep or Valkia. That also is a very great situation to be dealing with respect to a Legendary Lord campaign. Great design, made even better by the addition of Arbaal, who just does spice things up even further. That's all I had to say. Questine signing out. Stay tuned for more.